Hey everybody, so today we're going to be doing a dual channel dash cam installation on the second generation Mazda 3, and I wish I could say that this video was prompted by, being preemptive, but unfortunately it had to happen. Everyone wants a dash cam now because someone in my family had a hit and run on them. But that said, we're going to be using this A129 Plus Duo dual channel dash cam, so that means there's one camera in front, one in the rear, and we're going to be installing it using the Hardwire Kit. Now this camera is an incredible value for a dual dash cam setup, and we're going to be installing it on both the Mazda 3 Sedan in the garage and the Hatchback right behind me on the driveway. Both of these are second generation Mazda 3, so if that's what you have, let's get to it. So looking inside this A129 Plus Duo package, you can see we have a front camera with a nice handy screen so you can see all the settings and what the output is. We have the rear camera module. We have a power cord that goes to your 12-volt or cigarette lighter. We have the long USB cable which goes to the rear camera from the front camera. We have an included trim / little pry tool, a micro SD card reader, a USB cable for just whatever general connectivity, I guess, and a couple of sticky pads or double-sided sticky pads for mounting things or routing wires. So all in all, this is a pretty comprehensive package, and I'm actually pretty happy that they include this little pry tool here, and it's actually a good quality one. It doesn't bend too easily, so this actually will be quite useful for your installation. So let's talk a little bit about the length of the cables that comes with this kit. This here is the standard USB cable that comes with the cigarette lighter 12-volt adapter power, and this guy is 4 meters. If you buy the optional Hardwire Kit, that's also 4 meters long. And the cable that goes from the front camera to the rear, well, that is 6. So if you have a car with a rear-mounted Fusebox that you're going to hardwire into, well, just make sure that 4 meters will work for you. I'm not quite sure 4 meters would be long enough for my BMW, but for these Mazda 3s with the Fusebox, right by the driver's side knee area, this will be plenty. Hey guys, so I'm in the car now, and the first thing we're going to start off with is figuring out where we're going to place the front camera. So, we could just pull this off and kind of stick it there, but don't you really want to see, that you've placed it where you can get the best viewing angle? So that's kind of the goal here. And to do that, I'm going to start by using the original 12-volt or cigarette lighter power adapter, even though I'm planning on hardwiring this, because this is a whole lot easier to power the camera, without having to go in the fuse box or anything ahead of time. So we're going to use this, and we're going to use the center armrest 12-volt socket. And the reason why we're using that one and not the one down here by the front console or shifter is because that one is always on. So the one down here, unless you put your key in, turn to the ignition position, that one is not getting any power, but the one in the armrest will. And you can also test this because this guy, there's a little ring around here, lights up green if it's powered. So I'm just going to go ahead and plug this in over here. Check that it's green. Great. And then we can go ahead and take our camera. The camera comes with a little black film over the front. Make sure you take that off so that we can actually see what we're seeing. And then we can go ahead and plug the power in. Now you have a couple options for the power. On the rear over here on the mount, you can see you can power that way, or there's also a USB over here on the side. But we're just going to use the mount power to start this thing up. So I've plugged it in there. We can tell it's getting power because this record light is coming on, and well, you just heard the thing turn on as well, and well, it's beeping a bunch because there's no memory card. So why don't we go ahead and do that too? So I've got this 128 gigabyte micro SD card, and I'm just going to go ahead and insert that into the side of the unit. Okay, so this guy has now turned on with the memory card, and because it's not formatted or anything, it's still giving us this annoying beep. I'm going to go ahead and pull off this little screen film over the screen just so that we can see a little bit better. And let's go ahead and go through the menus to start so that we can stop this annoying chirping beeping sound. Okay, so to start, if you need the screen come on, we're going to hit this button in the right hand side, and from there we can go hit the menu button over here on the left. And then you can see that the screen shows you that the center button is for OK, this one over here, the microphone button is for going down, and the record button is for scrolling up. So let's go ahead and scroll down till we get to the format or the card format. So we've got format. Let's do that. All right, now our card is formatted, and this thing should stop whining at us. Now we're going to figure out where we want to place the camera. This front camera module, you can see here, it can rotate. So go ahead and set the angle you would want, and then we'll go ahead and just drape this wire over the mirror. And I kind of like to set these up on kind of the far side or the passenger side of the mirror, just because it's a little bit less in the direct view of the driver. Of course, you know, preference is up to you, but I also like them to be, you know, as high up and centered as they can be. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this over here, and, you know, try and look at the screen and see, you know, where this would need to be placed to give me a centered view of the car. And then once we've done that, we can go ahead and pull off this red backer for the double-sided tape, and then just stick it on. Okay, now that we have our camera placed, we can go ahead and remove the you know, 12-volt power adapter that we had in the armrest, and put this to the side. Okay, next let's go ahead and start hooking up the power and rear camera cables to the dash cam. I'm going to start with the power cable, and unfortunately they give you this kind of right angle cable, which works great if you're attaching to the side of the camera, but if you want to put the power in the base, which I kind of want to do, it doesn't look quite as clean. But anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there, and then we can go ahead and take the rear camera cable, which also is a right angle one, and we'll plug that into the USB for the rear, just like that. Next, what we'll do is we'll take both of these wires and we're going to feed them up into the headliner. And the headliner, you can see I'm just, you know, prying it with my fingertips. It's, you know, it's really easy. But anyhow, we're just going to put these guys up and into the headliner, and then we're going to route this to the driver's side A-pillar. So you can see I just put that up there. Same with this one. Go around my family member's little koala buddy here. So one thing I do want to do, just to, you know, kind of keep these wires together, is they provide all these little cable clips in here, or in the kit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take one of these, and I'm going to secure the two wires here with it. So there we go. This should keep things together nicely. Now what we'll do is we'll just feed both of these wires into the headliner up here. And once again, I'm just, you know, using my fingertips. This headliner has a decent gap between it and the glass, until we get all the way over to the A-pillar. So when we get to this A-pillar here, what we want to do is we want to take these wires and we want to route them along this seam till it goes to the outside edge of the A-pillar. And this is the first time where you'll probably want to use, you know, this nice little trim or pry tool. And so what we'll do is, you know, we'll just stick that in here, open that up with a little bit of a gap, take the wires one by one, we'll kind of stuff them in here, and run it all the way to the edge of the door. So there's one wire. Now I'll take the second one and do the same. Okay, so now we have the wires over here at the edge, near the edge of the door, and we're going to want to route the hard wire down the A-pillar towards the fuse box, and we'll want to route the rear camera wire along up the A-pillar and roof towards the rear of the car. And to get underneath this weather stripping, it's actually really simple. We just grab the weather stripping and just pull it down off of the car. So you can see this just comes off very easily, and there's no adhesive or anything, so you're not ruining anything by pulling it off. In fact, there's just a rubber channel in here that clamps this metal seam going along the door. So, you know, don't worry about, you know, ruining anything, and it's so simple to put this back. Like literally you just do that, you just press it back into place. So feel free, you know, pull this off, take that hard wire cable, and we're just going to route this along that A-pillar trim, and you can go ahead and put the weather stripping on top of it as soon as you're done, and that'll hold it in place. So I'm just going to route this all the way down. All right, now let's get to the front fuse box. So the fuse box is located right behind this panel here, and so you can go ahead and take your trim tool, put it in the little notch there, and just pry and pull this access panel off. So here is the fuse box. You can see all the different fuses behind here, and in order to route the cable, and more importantly, this little voltage cutoff selector module into the fuse box, well, you're going to need a little bit more room between the seam here and what this plastic offers. So we're actually going to pull this whole plastic part and pull it out, and you really just kind of grab it a little bit and just give it a nice little tug. Just like that, and then that opens up this area back here so much more, so we can fit everything very easily. So now let's go ahead and feed the hardwire cable assembly into the fuse box area, and we'll pull it out of the access door area just so that we have a little bit more working room. And then we can go ahead and close this back up. If you look at up top here, right, we have 3 plastic clips that slot into other receptacles on the main dash. So we just have to make sure those three clips line up, and then we just push it back together. So let's talk about fuses. Well, on our Hardwire kit, you can see we have 3 wires. We have yellow, red, and black for constant on, accessory on, and ground. And well, each of these is going to have to tie into something in this fuse box. Well, ground, what we're going to do is we're going to put that ground lug over on this post and metal nut over there, and then we need to find 2 fuses in this fuse box to tap into. One of them needs to be always or a constant on, and then the second one needs to only be on, well, when your ignition on or when the car is on. And in order to tie into these fuses on the fuse box, we're going to use this little piece called an add a fuse or fuse tab. And for this car, these are low profile mini fuses, so get the same style add a fuse. And the way that this works is you can see that there's 2 fuse receptacles on here, and one of those just completes the circuit going up from one leg to the other, so just the same as what this fuse does. And the fuse that you pluck out of here, you're going to put in the bottom slot on this add a fuse. For the top fuse slot, well, that's going to control the current control going to the extension here, and this tap or the extension, that is where we are going to connect each one of these yellow and red leads to on their own individual ones. So let's go over how to couple the add a fuse to your wire lead. Well, first you take the little heat shrink cap off of there, and then what I like to do is I like to twist the wire element just so it's nice and rigid and it stays together a little bit better. And then if you can see in here, you can see there's a little metal cylinder, so we're going to insert this lead in there. And I actually like to just bend the end of the lead back on itself, give this a little bit more thickness than it originally did, just so that we can ensure it gets clamped. So then we'll take the lead and we'll wire and we'll stick it into that cylinder. And then what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to clamp that metal cylinder or crimp it onto the wire. And now you might think, oh, I got a pair of pliers, I can do it. Pliers a lot of times don't have enough force to do that. You can try with channel locks, but it's also a little bit difficult with those sometimes. So I like to use actual vice grips. And so I'll place the vice grip over here, and then I will clamp down and squeeze that metal cylinder onto the wire. So now we can clearly see that I've crimped it on, and if I give a little bit of tug, I can't pull this wire out, so we know we have a secure connection. Make sure and go ahead and do the same to the red wire. Next, we're going to want to insert the fuses into our add a fuse on the top slot. So this is what's going to allow us to power those extra cables from the Hardwire kit. So get the legs in there and then just press down until the fuse goes all the way in. And these are going to be the fuses that came with the add a fuse kit, or some spare ones if you have them. Really, for a dash cam like this, you really don't need a fuse greater than 5 amps. Alright, so let's talk about which fuses we're going to use now. What we're going to do is we want one which is always on, and the always on one is going to go to this battery or red wire of the Hardwire kit, and then we have an accessory or yellow wire one. So for the accessory or yellow wire one, what we're going to do is we're going to use this 20 25 amp fuse down here. And the way that you can test this is, with no key in the car, there's a little test point on the top of each of these fuses. And if you touch a multimeter to the test point and then to the grounding bolt over here, if you see a voltage, well, that tells you it's on. And if you see no voltage, well, that tells you it's off. So I am going to start with this 15, and you can see I'm just using a pair of pliers to grab and pluck that out. Then we can take that 15 in our add a fuse, and we can add it or put it into the open bottom slot. And then we can go ahead and take this and plug it right back in where we plucked that 15 from. Then we'll go ahead and we'll do the same with this 25. We'll grab my pliers, pluck the fuse out, place it into the add a fuse, and then I will put the add a fuse right back where we plucked that out of. Next, we're going to loosen the nut for the grounding lug, and I'm just going to take my 10 millimeter socket, and I'm just going to unscrew this enough so that we can slide this lug in there. And once our lug is in place, we can go ahead and take our 10 millimeter again and then tighten it till this thing is secure. And this just needs to be hand tight snug. So now you can see we have our different hardwire points all tapped into the fuse box, and then it's just a matter of bundling up these cables, zip tying or twisty tying them together to make everything look nice and clean inside. So let's talk about this voltage shutoff control module for a second. If you can see here, I know it's upside down in this picture, but that's just so I can access the switch up top over here. And what this is this tells you the different voltages when the switch is positioned to their area, that they will cut off power to the camera. So if you want to be conservative, set this to the highest, which is 12.4 volts, and well, if you're not concerned about draining your battery all the way down, you can set it to 11.8. So you're really going to have to think about how much driving you do, how long your car is sitting. Like if your car doesn't get driven all that much, definitely be more conservative and set this towards the upper part. If you're doing driving all the time, well, maybe you can afford to go a little bit lower. But for all of these cars in the family, at least right now, with COVID and all, people aren't driving nearly as much, so their batteries aren't maintaining a high state of charge. So I'm going to leave this at the 12.4. Okay, so now we have everything tucked in here, all nice and neat, and we have this control module where it's easily accessible in case and anyone wants to change that later. So now we can go ahead and just button everything back up. So I'll take the access plate cover, slide it in the forward side first, and then push in the clips, and then I can just make sure that our weather stripping is all pushed right back into place. Okay, now we're going to take the wire that goes to the rear camera and just kind of put it along the weather stripping, going along the roof till we get to the B-pillar area. And then once we get to the B-pillar area, we can once again take our trim pry tool thing and make a space, a gap, so that we can tuck this wire in. And then when we get to the back side of this, we can once again grab the weather stripping and just pull it off so that we have a little bit of room to get that wire all the way in there. Then going along this back section of the roof liner is the same as the front. You just take our weather stripping, pull it off, and we're going to feed our wire up into the liner. For the sedan, things are a lot easier in the rear, because once we get along the the lining of the door over here, then we just route those same wires through this little plastic piece and then up into the headliner. And then you can see we would just route the wires in the headliner gap all the way across till we get to the center. Since there's no brake light obstruction here, you can just place the camera dead center. You don't really need to have someone looking in the front at the screen to align it like you do in the hatchback. And yeah, then just tuck your excess cable back into the headliner here. And if you need a little bit more working room, well, you can always, undo this little fastener in the headliner so that you can pull the headliner down to give yourself a little bit more of a gap up there. And the way that you do that is you can take this, pry or trim tool and just get it under the lip of that center post in there, and then just pry that down. So you can see I released it, and then that'll let me pull the fastener right out. And then when we get to this section on the hatchback, once again, just use your pry tool and create a little gap that we can stuff this wire into. And we'll just do that for the entire length of this piece. And once we've got it, fed in there, then we can use the tool later to push the wire deeper in so that this gap is fully closed. So go ahead and take this and we can push the wire in so that this gap closes up. All right, looking at the headliner at the rear of the hatchback model, we have these little fasteners. You can see I've popped the center stud out of one of them. Well, there's one on each side, and then you can see we have one more in the middle. So let's go ahead and just loosen these so it allows us to manipulate the headliner a little bit more easily as we're routing wires there. And the way that you do that is you can take this pry or trim tool and just get it under the lip of that center post in there, and then just pry that down. So you can see I released it, and then that'll let me pull the fastener right out. All right, now what we want to do is we want to get this wire from here all the way over here so that we can route it through this rubber boot that goes to the hatchback. So once again, we'll just kind of pull the weather stripping off of the car as much as we need to. Okay, so we're going to take the cable and we're going to run it all the way over here because we're going to try and route it through this channel. And if you're wondering why don't we do it on this one, well, there's fewer cables in this one, so it's a little bit easier. There's a lot more room. Like if all we had to do was route the wire, there'd be no problem. But the problem is that this USB head is so large that it's really difficult to kind of route through here with the other wires there. So we're going to try it through this side over here. So we'll need to pop off, this grommet, and you can see this white plastic piece that just wraps around it there. And then the top, you can just get your fingers or a pry tool in there to help pop the grommet out on the top side. All right, so you can see here I'm working with the right grommet hose, and the reason why I'm going with this one is because this one has a thicker cable in there, so there's less room to fit the particularly thick head of this USB cable through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duct tape this to the end over here and try and pull this through so that we can route it into the hatch assembly. Okay, so you can see that I was successfully able to pull this through, and actually right as I got to the very end, the duct tape that I had connecting the pulling rod to the USB connector broke. But luckily I was right at the end, so I was able to get it through. If I had been stuck in the middle here, oh man, that would have been such a pain. One of the things you might be able to do is just coat this with a light coat of lightweight oil, like WD-40 or something, and that may help it slide through this rubber hose getting to the other side. Next, we're going to remove this upper trim piece on the hatch, and there's two little tabs that this piece overlaps on the piece on the sides. So you're going to need to get under there and kind of pop those up, and they're right over here at the top. So we can use that trimmer pry tool again, just kind of pull this up a little bit, and then we just simply pull the trim piece out this way. So you can see the clip popped on that side. Now go to the other side. Once again, I'll release this tab at the top by prying up on it, and then I'll pull out. And once these two side tabs are released, we can just go ahead and pull this trim piece right off. And if we look on the back side of it, you can see we've got these tabs over here on the side, and we've got these clips in the center that just kind of plug in to the sheet metal. Okay, now you can see, I've put the wire up through here and I pulled it out of this hole, but really I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread it through over to the other side so I can place the camera over here. And the reason why I'm going to do that is, at least for me personally, I kind of feel like when you're looking at your rear, you're kind of looking more out of the passenger side of the rear than you are the driver's side. So I just would rather put the camera over here, just any obstruction I'm making would be less impactful to the driver. All right, so you can see I've got this wire over here now, and then I've got the rear camera assembly, and what I want to do is I want to plug this in to the rear camera before I just tape this here, because it's possible you can accidentally put this camera too close, and then, well, okay, the trim panel gets in the way, or oh, this USB connector is in the way of where you would put the trim back here. So we want to make sure we do a mock-up, and also we don't just want to stick this on the glass because we don't know which way it's pointed. And so what we're actually going to do is we're going to put the the hatch down, and from the inside we can then place the camera. And if you have a friend, well, it'd probably be a good idea to have them sit in the front and look at the picture or the image on the screen, so they can say, like, yes, this is pointed in the right direction. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this trim piece, and I'm just going to temporarily install it back. But I'm only going to use one of the clips, and I'm just going to use this one over here so that this side's a little loose, so I can, you know, maneuver this cable appropriately. And you know, I have this loop of USB cable here, and that's going to allow me to, you know, pull this cable through so that we can control how much we have over here. So I'm just going to align this. Feel that clip kind of go into place. There we go. And then I'm going to push just so that one there, you know, this side's still loose, so we can pull cable through. And then I'm just going to pull this USB cable over here so we just have you know, just this head is poking out right here, just where the end of that strain relief is. And then, you know, now we know we have the right amount. So what we can do is we can then feed the rest of the excess cable down back into the headliner. Now it's probably a good time to clean up this area. So what we can do is we can begin, you know, kind of pulling that excess USB cable back down into the headliner. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and reinstall this grommet back on these white clips. And once again, there's just this lip of the grommet that goes around the lip of the white plastic clips. So let's talk about these plastic clips here. It's easier to get the grommet back over it if you pull these out of the body metal. And as you can see, there are 3 different tabs on here. And so you can use a tool like a pick to like get in there from, you know, the top or the bottom, depending on which angle you're going at it, and then just pluck those tabs inwards to release it from the body. I would recommend definitely doing this big one first and then one of the smaller side ones. You may be able to get it out just undoing 2, because, you know, it'll allow the front to pop out, and then you can just slide the rest of the piece out. So I'll show you this one up here, for example. I'm going to go ahead and take my pick, and I'm going to go ahead and get this front one over here. And actually, you know, you can probably use the little trim tool as well, just, you know, get the corner of it. So I popped out the front one, and then I'm going to attack the one on the side here, once again using the corner. So I have those 2 out. Now I can just pop this guy right out. So now we'll come over here to this side, get our USB cable, and pull the excess cable out through here. And once we've done that, then we can go ahead and re-secure this plastic clip and its grommet back into the body, just like that. And then down below, we can pull the rest of that cable down through the headliner, and then we can go ahead and secure this plastic bracket into the lower body. All right, so you can see, you know, we have a lot of room under the headliner here. So what I did is I just bundled up the rest of this excess cable, put a twisty tie around it, and then I'm just going to tuck it in under here. And this is where, you know, it'll stay. So now we can go ahead and we can re-secure the headliner. Once again, right, we have these little plastic clips, and there's 3 of them on the sedan, or 3 of them on this hatchback, 2 of them on the wagon, and we'll just insert them into the holes on the bottom of the headliner and then into the body metal. So we'll push the headliner up, put the clip in until we feel it go into the sheet metal on the body, and then we'll go ahead and press that center tab to lock it. Next, we can go ahead and put our weather stripping back on, and once again, you know, this just slots right onto this seam right here. So you literally just push it down over it, and then make sure, you know, it's the lip of this is on the outside of the headliner. And when you're going to place the camera, you know, or see where it is, don't forget to take off the little plastic cover over the lens. All right, so I'm on the inside of the car, as you can see, and I have a helper up front and telling me where to move this camera and where to place it on the glass. And, you know, because this back glass is curved, where you place this on the glass isn't necessarily going to look straight and level according to this glass. And that's why kind of you either need to use a phone app or use someone in the front to help guide you where to place this thing. Now we can finish things off by re-securing this panel, and well, since we've already got one clip in place, it's easy because we just have to push the rest of the clips in. And make sure that the little tabs on here go over the edges of these other side trim pieces. Then the last thing we have to do is just set up the settings on the camera. So we have to hit this record button to stop recording. You'll see the record light flash. Then we can get into the the menu, and then using the buttons as they're described. So this record button now scrolls up, and the microphone button scrolls down. We can choose things, so like resolution, you know, I like 60 FPS, so I set it to 1440p 60. And then bit rate, we'll leave it on medium, and so forth. Some of the other things you'll probably want to check out are loop recording, you know, and especially your parking mode. You know, do you want parking mode? You know, if you don't want to drain your battery at all when the car's off, well, then you would disable parking mode. But these are just some of the things you'd look at, and you know, the manual has all the rest of the setup information. So that's your dual channel dash cam installation on the 2nd generation Mazda 3. You know, I hope you guys find this helpful and are able to put one of these in your vehicles before you have something happen that makes you wish you had one later.